you doing? Good to see you. Jono here, selling North Dallas real estate. Hope you're doing well. Today we're going to break down what you need to know about property taxes here in North Dallas, specifically Collin County. We're going to go over resources. We're going to go over what property taxes are. Now, there's not a whole lot sexy about property taxes, so I'm going to try to make this entertaining. We're going to just skim along the surface and talk about some things that maybe a lot of people don't know about. Again, I'm not a tax professional. I'm a wingding real estate agent. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to buy a house or to sell a house, but you need to know what to expect if you've never bought a home. So if you're new to the channel, I'm Jono. Selling North Dallas is all about helping folks buy, sell, invest in real estate here in North Dallas, specifically Collin County. We cover the whole area if you're cool.
I am cool.
If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to do that. Turn on the notification bell, click the like button. Here we go, property taxes. I am not a tax professional. I'm not a tax strategist. I'm not giving you financial advice or tax advice. But there are some things that you need to know about property taxes, especially if you're thinking about coming to North Texas, specifically North Dallas or Collin County, if you're nasty.
That's nasty.
So, without further ado, let's talk about property taxes. What's the old saying? There's only two things you gotta do. You gotta die and you gotta pay taxes. I think it was Benjamin Franklin that said that. It doesn't matter. What are property taxes? What is a tax rate? How are taxes calculated? Are there gonna be spreadsheets in this video? I promise no spreadsheets for all my non-number types, but just at an elementary level, property taxes are an important part of real estate. They do wonderful things like pave roads and pay for police and fire protection and community colleges and city government and infrastructure. So it's no surprise when you get into some of these areas that have a higher tax rate, things are a little nicer, maybe inferring some things. But, you know, if you look at the community colleges, if you look at the state of the hospitals and the quality of care and the people that they're able to hire and local government, irrespective of how you feel about local government, the idea is if you're paying more in property taxes, you probably ought to get a little nicer setup. Look at the car that you drive. Do you drive the cheapest car possible? Probably not. You probably pay a little bit more for value. And as much as I hate paying property taxes, that's kind of my expectation. I don't mind paying a little bit more because my kid gets to go to a really nice school system. The roads are not littered with potholes.
Oh man, swerve them potholes.
The response time for police and fire and emergency services, the quality of the water and the infrastructure, right? There's a lot that goes into property taxes. You could call it a necessary evil, but that's kind of the idea of today's video is let's break down some of these things. Now, the scope of the video is not to talk about the tax advantages of owning real estate if you are so inclined to look up the Augusta rule or the fact that you can write off the interest that you pay on a mortgage, right? There's a lot of advantages that are baked into real estate. That's not what we're talking about here, but those might be some things that you want to take a look at if you're not familiar with the Augusta rule. Ask your tax strategist or CPA. Hopefully you have one, especially if you're making money moves and the more complicated things are, there's actually a ton of value into those services. That's not the scope of the video either. I'm getting off track. Let me preface by saying in all of my years of selling real estate and talking to folks about real estate, I have never, not one time, had somebody tell me the reason that they were thinking about making a move was because of property taxes. Now, that might have been one of those logical things that they list, you know, the area that they're in, the taxes are too high or the schools are crap or whatever. But the reality is you're probably not interested in real estate solely because of property taxes. They are a necessary evil.
It's a necessary evil.
But it's important for you to understand, at least at a cursory level, either what they are or how to navigate them. And that's what we're after today. The thing I want to say about that is not all cities and counties have the same tax rate. For example, the city of Frisco, Texas basically sits right on top of two counties. You've got Collin County to the east and Denton County to the west. In fact, Denton County has a lower tax rate than Collin County does. So you could still be in Frisco, you could still have Frisco ISD schools, you could have access to first responders, police, fire, the community college, all of the things that make up a tax rate, still have a Frisco address, but pay a little bit lower in taxes. So that's a pro tip if you're keeping track of pro tips.
Which I am.
The reason I bring that up is because property taxes are usually not a driving force for the reason that people are making a move. It's important to know, but it's probably not the end-all be-all. But all things being equal, if you're trying to decide between two areas, we might take a look at the tax rates and see what the total costs might be. So this might be a good time to talk about how taxes are calculated. The easiest way to look at something like this is how you pay the taxes usually depends on how the property is acquired. Are you paying all cash or are you getting a mortgage? Most people get a mortgage, and most people elect to have the mortgage company pay the taxes on their behalf. So quickly, you're making your payment, a portion of your payment, your PITI, which stands for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. You pay all of that to the mortgage company, and they will take a percentage of that and apply to your account, your escrow account. And then when taxes come due and when your insurance premiums come due, for the year, the mortgage company will pay those on your behalf. In my opinion, it's just easier. Some people will argue they're missing the opportunity cost on the potential interest that they would have earned had they done their own escrow. To me, there's a fart with it factor. I'd rather not fart with it, right? In the grand scheme of things, that's probably not great financial advice, but I've just always had my mortgage company take those funds out, pay them on my behalf, and it's a little bit easier. So we've already talked about some of the things that attribute to a tax rate, which would be the school system, the hospitals that feed into it, the water districts that feed into it, infrastructure. Based on those areas, they'll have a given tax rate, and there's a formula that they use to determine if this is the value of your home, this is what you will pay annually in taxes. Now, when you talk about values, there's the assessed value and there's the market value. So if you just bought your home and it was $1 million,
$1 million.
That's the market value that you paid, presumably. That doesn't necessarily mean that your taxes are going to be assessed at $1 million. In fact, the tax assessment is usually lower. Quick rabbit trail on that. Texas is a non-disclosure state. So if you buy a home and somebody calls and says, hey, we're with the tax office, we understand you just bought the house, congratulations, what did you pay? Don't tell them, because they can factor that in to your taxes and you will probably not be happy with the end result.
Bastards.
So your tax rate and the assessed value come together. You see, when two entities love each other, a tax rate and an assessed value, and that will use those two items to calculate what your tax basis or exposure for the year will be. And then you just divide that by 12, and that's what's come out of your mortgage payment. That's a very rudimentary definition, but we're trying to make this light and not too down in the weeds. In fact, if you really like this video and you want to deep dive onto how tax rates are calculated and all that, I'm happy to do that, but I hate taxes, so unless you people really want it, this will suffice. Okay, is this helpful? Hopefully it's helpful. This is usually the point of the video where we say, if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to do that. Turn on notifications, hit the like button, and for showing my appreciation of hitting the like button, here's a picture of me and Katie in Cabo. Isn't she cute? Can you believe she said yes? What a sucker. Resources. Oh boy. there are a dime a dozen, depending upon how you like to handle things. I'm a leverage guy, so I really lean on the people in my world to handle those types of things for me. If I'm going to do some research myself, the central appraisal districts for each county have really great websites. So, for example, if we pull up the Collin County Central Appraisal District, or Collin CAD for short, on the surface it looks like a Fisher Price My First website. But the more you dig into there, there's some really great info. The frequently asked questions section is really great. In fact, why don't we just do this? Collin Central Appraisal District, you get the Collin CAD homepage. Now, it's not beautiful on the start. In fact, it kind of looks like Fisher Price My First website.
You already said that.
There's some really great stuff in here. So, like property searches, if you want to figure out let's say you're looking at a specific property and you want to know what the taxes are for that particular property. You can come in here, you can plug in the street address and Viola, it tells you the taxes. Now, if you're looking at a house in Dallas, that's going to, depending upon the address, is going to be the Dallas Central Appraisal District. If you're looking for a property and it's a Dallas address and you don't find it on the Dallas CAD, yeah, it's the site's down. If you don't find it on Dallas CAD, look in Collin County. That may be why. Tarrant County is TAD, the Tarrant Appraisal District. The Denton County is Denton Central Appraisal District. So all of these sites, because they're different counties, they're different entities, they all look a little different. But the resources like FAQ, there's some really good stuff in here. What are the office hours, physical address, mailing address, standard stuff. Right here in bold, how does the property tax system work? I guess they want you to see this one. Who sets the rate at which the property is taxed? When do I get my determination of value, and what if I disagree with it? So this is something that happens. A little pro tip for keeping track of pro tips.
Which I am.
You'll get a letter in the mail. In fact, Denton CAD will begin mailing out notice of appraised values in April, May of each year. Determination of values based on your property as of January 1st of that year. You have 30 days from the date of mailing to file a formal protest form. Let's say that they come back and say the value is something. You should always protest your taxes. Well, I say always. There are certain times where it may not be to your benefit, but let's say you look at it and you're under the 10% threshold. Well, wait a second, Jono, what does that mean? In the state of Texas, there's a cap on how much your taxes can go up. It's capped at 10%. So if values just go bananas, you won't be surprised with a 100% increase in your tax bill. The most of an increase that you would realize would be 10%. So let's say the value's gone way up and you're kind of getting a deal at 10%, just shut up. Or if you have questions, consult your tax professional. I am not your tax professional. Just consider that for what it's worth. Okay, let's say they're proposing that the taxes have a 5% increase and you want to protest them. It's actually pretty easy to do. One of the things that a professional might tell you to do is go around and take pictures of every bump and bruise and booger in your house. For example, we had a part go out on our dishwasher and the dishwasher overflowed, got on the floor, water got into some of the baseboards, got into some of the flooring, the wood flooring, and created some bubbles. I'm gonna go and take pictures of that so that when I go to file my protest next year, assuming I do that, I have some evidence to show and thus pull down the value because the property has been damaged, right? If there's wood rot on your back door, hypothetically, you might add that to your items to protest, and it's shockingly easy. There are companies that are out there, if you'd like to hire someone to protest it, and then they are paid based out of what they save you. I'll save my opinion on that for another conversation. But it's not terribly complicated. In fact, the exercise of going through that could prove to be valuable if you want to protest your own taxes. There you go. So we were talking about resources. If we go back to Colin, there's some helpful stuff in here. What is a homestead cap? We just talked about that. Cap value applies to residential homesteads only and goes into effect the second year. 10% of the appraised value of the property for the preceding year plus. Anyway, you can read all that stuff. Like, there's some really great stuff on here about property taxes. This is collincountytx.gov. I guess I'm in the generous mood. I'll put a link to this down in the description.
Thank you so much.
This is a universal symbol for down in the description. If you're going to be looking in Collin County, this will probably be a useful website. If you've bought or plan to buy in Collin County, you should probably bookmark this one. Okay, in the property taxes, now if you keep going through here, there's stuff on motor vehicles. This is kind of the overarching website for taxes, but we're talking about property taxes. Avoiding penalties, how to pay online, office hours, tax rates. What is the tax rate history? I promise there would be no spreadsheets. That's all you're gonna get. Truth in taxation, there's some great resources in here. Where's the FAQs? Property taxes. Why am I not finding the FAQs? Please hold. Okay, so technology pro tip. If you know it's there and you just can't find it and you don't have the patience to read the whole damn website, you can do a Command F if you're on a Mac or a Control F, and it pulls up the little find feature. And looky there, right there in yellow. Property tax, FAQs, exemptions. That's the next thing that I was going to talk about. What are some types of exemptions? Exemptions reduce the taxable value of a property. This lowers your tax amount. Some exemptions are resident homestead. We had a deal that we did, I think it was May, and the property that my buyers purchased it from the sellers that lived there, I want to say 13 years and never filed their homestead exemption. Well, Jono, what's a homestead exemption? Look it up on Google. We'll talk about that another time. But they didn't do it, and they overpaid on their taxes. The homestead tax is available for all homeowners and their primary residents as long as they've lived there as of January 1st of the year. Disabled homestead is an additional exemption that you can take, and the more these exemptions you take, the lower your tax burden or your tax basis. If you're a DV, there's additional tax advantages to home ownership. If you're age 65 or older. So any of these that you qualify for, you should apply for. It's free to apply. The website goes into how to do all of that. And you could pay more in taxes, but why would you? So was that helpful? Hopefully it was. Thanks for hanging out. Here's my man Ice Cube with some parting words of advice. Not necessarily on taxes, but we just really appreciate Ice Cube and all the things that he's done for the channel. Until next time.
Bye, Felicia.